working toward peace in the Middle East. How evangelicals are joining forces with the White House on a plan for the Palestinians and Israel. Overhauling Obamacare on hold. Why Republicans will wait to try to change healthcare in America. And the Supreme Court will soon decide, are fertilized embryos people or property? All this and more tonight on Faith Nation.
Faith leaders working to bring peace in the Middle East. Welcome to Faith Nation. I'm John Jessup.
And I'm Jenna Browder. Evangelicals are joining President Trump on the front lines as he crafts his plan for peace in the Middle East. And while faith leaders are urging the White House to support Israel, they are also calling for help and prayers for the Palestinians.
CBN's White House correspondent Ben Kennedy spoke with some of those evangelicals. Ben, what did you learn?
Well, John and Jenna, faith leaders told the White House to never forget that Iran remains the real enemy in the Middle East. That being said, the deal won't work unless the Palestinian Authority is open to talks. To solve that dilemma, the Trump administration wanted to hear directly from Christian leaders.
We were stunned by that.
Stunned that the White House wanted input from leaders like Pastor Jack Graham on Middle East peace.
We talked about, of course, the sovereignty of Israel, that's very important for Christians, and particular Bible-believing Christians, that Israel has a right to exist and Jerusalem as its capital.
In the meeting that included Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and the president's son-in-law Jared Kushner, Graham and others urged the security of Israel must be a priority.
Making sure that Israel is safe. As long as people keep throwing bombs at Israel, it's going to be difficult to have peace. So everybody understands that. But at the same time, we talked about partnerships with Arab countries and governments that could be partners, and economic development, I think, will be a part of the plan.
Another attendee, Pastor Jensen Franklin, agrees. Do you think this plan could actually stop the violence along the Gaza border?
I believe there's a possibility. There's something that is working, and people like Jared Kushner and Jason Greenblatt and others are working diligently trying to find some middle ground.
The middle ground could include a two-state solution. The challenge lies with the Palestinian Authority, who has refused to speak with the White House since President Trump recognized Jerusalem as Israel's capital. What needs to be in this plan to get the Palestinian Authority to the table to even talk?
Opportunity. Everyone needs to live with hope. And so many Palestinian people are living without hope.
God cares and loves the Palestinians and cares about them, and so do we in the evangelical community. But we cannot allow parts of Israel that serve so greatly to protect and secure the people of Israel to be given away.
The White House has stopped short in releasing details about that Middle East peace plan in September. President Trump said it would be ready in 4 months, but clearly it is taking more time to hash out a deal. John, Jenna?
Ben, once the plan is unveiled, do faith leaders think the Palestinian Authority will actually negotiate?
Well, Jenna, actually on Sunday, PA President Mahmoud Abbas said there is no room for the U.S. in this peace process. To be honest, guys, it's a bit of a wait and see. For one, if they will look at the peace plan once it is unveiled, and then if they're open to dialogue. That's the latest outside the White House. Ben Kennedy, CBN News.
All right, thank you, Ben. Well, it is unlikely the Justice Department will meet today's deadline to release the full unredacted Mueller report. House Judiciary Chairman Jerry Nadler and leading Democrats plan to vote tomorrow to authorize subpoenas so they can see the probe's findings, along with all of the evidence from the Trump-Russia investigation. Attorney General Bill Barr, who issued a summary of those findings last week, told Congress he plans to release the nearly 400-page report by mid-April or possibly sooner. Some portions of that report might be concealed to protect classified information like sources and methods or material that could affect ongoing matters. Barr's summary of the Mueller report cleared the president of any collusion between Russia and the Trump campaign.
Well, President Trump's push to overhaul Obamacare is on pause for now. The president says on Twitter, Republicans are developing a really great health care plan, but that a vote won't come until after the 2020 election. Congressional Democrats have long been critical over the president's calls to repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare, even more so today after the president's announcement on delaying action.
The president tweeted that they will come up with their plan in 2021. Translation, they have no health care plan. It's the same old song they've been singing. Therefore, repeal, they have no replace. President Trump confirmed that he will hold Americans hostage through the 2020 election when it comes to health care.
The Justice Department agreed with a district court ruling that the Affordable Care Act is unconstitutional and should be thrown out. Meanwhile, House Democrats introduced a new bill to strengthen the Affordable Care Act. It would make more middle-class people eligible for subsidies and help lower-income recipients already in the system. That bill should make it through the House, but not the Republican-controlled Senate. Well, Indiana Senator Mike Braun says before Obamacare repeal effort takes place, Republicans need a clear plan on what will replace it. Today, he spoke with CBN News' Capitol Hill correspondent Abigail Robertson. Abigail, the president keeps saying Republicans are going to be the party known for health care. Does Senator Braun agree?
Well, Senator Braun told me that he was surprised to hear President Trump say this, but he said it's very much something that he would like to do. Now, Senator Braun has only been here just over 100 days, and he told me that he thinks Republicans, people in his own party, have defended big healthcare companies for too long. He said he knows from personal experience running his own business that patients and companies are not getting good deals from these insurance companies, and there are many changes he would like to see take place. Now, while he does not agree that a repeal should happen without a replacement, he said he's willing to work with the president on a more long-term solution. Take a look.
Leader McConnell, I think, was wise to step in and say that let's make sure we get it right this time. And I think it is such a big deal, so comprehensive, that it'd be hard for us to be out there now. What I'm going to do is work on lowering the cost, making it more transparent, and take that approach. Somewhere down the road, it's going to be the alternative that the other side is offering, which sounds so enticing, Medicare for all. I think we'd regret it because, first of all, it costs so much more, and we're already running deficits to where we don't pay for the government that we're already demanding. So I think they've got a lot that we can hit to where, how's that going to work? That's not going to pan out. On the other hand, we've got to devise a system. If we want to save the system, it's got to shrink, it's got to get better, it's got to offer us better value. That means solve the problems and lower the prices.
Senator Braun added that while President Trump wants to wait until after 2020, he's going to go ahead and put forth some bills that would help patients right now.
Abby, as we just reported, Democrats on the Hill are demanding to see the full Mueller report, even on the brink of issuing subpoenas for that report. What did Senator Braun have to say about that?
Well, Senator Braun is all for releasing the full report. Here's his full answer.
And I think it should be out in its fullest form, only qualified by whatever can't be displayed due to ongoing investigations and classified material. But it should be out there so we can all see it to the extent we can.
That's definitely a sentiment that has strong bipartisan support here on the Hill.
Abigail, another issue the Senate is set to tackle this week is the nuclear option to confirm judicial nominees. What did he say about that?
Well, John, that's right. We're hearing reports from Republicans of lower courts that are really struggling with backups because they have a lot of vacancies. And they say that this is because Democrats are taking the full 30 hours of debate time on each nominee, which they say is pretty unprecedented. So they're prepared to go nuclear in order to get these President Trump's nominees through. And this is something that Senator Braun supports.
The Democrats are all for this if it would go into effect in 2021. That's what I don't like about this place. I feel almost certain that if they'd have the levers of power, there'd be no doubt what would happen. And here, the fact that through the Clinton, Bush, and Obama administrations, there were only in the first 2 years an average of 8 cloture votes, and we've had 128. I'm glad Leader McConnell is doing it, and I think we're all going to be on board, and surely we'll get a few Democrats, and if not, I think we'll get it done the other way.
And we'll see how that vote pans out later this week.
Capitol Hill correspondent Abigail Robertson. Thanks, Abby.
Well, today Republicans are moving to force a House vote on a bill that would protect infants who survive a botched abortion. The Born Alive Abortion Survivors Protection Act would make it a crime to withhold life-saving medical care for abortion survivors.
Is the Born Alive Act even necessary?
Survivors of abortions gone awry say the answer is yes.
And I wish I could tell you that when I was born alive, everyone saw my humanity and immediately provided me medical care.
Melissa Oden survived an attempted abortion.
I was the little girl gasping for breath.
And she's not the only one.
My life actually was a miracle.
Claire Colwell is an abortion survivor too.
I wasn't my birth mother's body. I was a separate body, and I had a separate heartbeat inside of my birth mother's body.
So is Gianna Jensen.
I was born alive after being burned alive in my mother's womb.
Republicans want to force the issue and get Democrats on record.
All of us here today have a message for Nancy Pelosi. If you won't bring it up, we'll bring it up.
Representative Steve Scalise is second in command in the Republican House.
It should be easy to get all 435 members of Congress to sign this, but it's not. In fact, it's going to be hard. We know it's an uphill battle.
And Republicans say they have support from some Democrats in the House.
And I thank those brave Democrats that are going to cross the line.
Scalise says this is their chance.
There are a lot of Democrats who won their election last year flipping a Republican seat, saying that they would continue to be pro-life and stand up to Nancy Pelosi. Here's going to be their opportunity.
Democrats say the bill goes too far.
This bill is Washington politics at its worst. I will vote no.
All but 3 Democrats voted to block a similar bill last month in the Senate.
So this vote does not occur in a vacuum. It's part of a pattern taken by President Trump and congressional Republicans to limit, deny, or circumscribe a woman's right to health care.
Democrats say the bill is an attack on abortion rights and prevents doctors from using their best judgment.
Decisions such as this should be made by providers, physicians.
That judgment put on full display last month during a radio interview with Dr. and Virginia Governor Ralph Northam.
The infant would be delivered. The infant would be kept comfortable. The infant would be resuscitated if that's what the mother and the family desired, and then a discussion would ensue.
Republicans say doctors like Northam are only comforting themselves.
There's nothing comforting about abandoning a little baby to die.
Jill Stanek is a nurse who claims infants were left to die on her watch.
I couldn't bear the thought of this suffering child dying alone, and so I cradled and rocked him for the 45 minutes that he lived.
On the Born Alive Act, and she joins us now from Capitol Hill. Congresswoman Wagner, thanks so much for joining us. It's great to see you.
It's wonderful to be with you and your viewers.
Hey, why do you think it's important to demand a vote now in the House?
We've been trying now for well over a month. We've passed forward and moved on the floor 25 different unanimous consent to try and force Nancy Pelosi to bring this bill to the floor, as has been brought in the past. This is a piece of legislation that has been passed in the previous Congress and before that also on a bipartisan basis. But now more than ever, while we see legislators and governors across the country that are rolling back protections for children and babies that are born alive, we must act. We must act as a Congress and put everyone's vote on record with their districts.
Congresswoman, critics say a measure like this, the Born Alive Protection Act, is unnecessary because cases where infants need to be protected like this are extremely rare or could penalize or criminalize doctors. How do you respond to that?
Well, it's simply not true. There are only 6 states that actually report right now, and the CDC has put forward hundreds of cases of babies and infants that are born alive and then left to die and be discarded and killed in the procedure or operating room. What this bill does, when people have to understand, it does 4 very, very key things. First of all, it makes sure, first and foremost, that the doctor and the facility are held criminally liable. There are penalties in place for someone that actually kills a child that's been born alive. Next, it also requires that records and data be taken and kept so that we have a sense of how prevalent this is. It also is very important for the mother. It gives the mother the kind of civil remedies that she may need in case she wants to take action against that doctor that killed a born alive baby. But most important, it gives life-saving care to a baby that is born alive. And that is just it's not just a pro-life issue. This is an issue that's a human rights issue. This is an issue that our founding fathers guaranteed in our Constitution: life, liberty, and equal protection under the law. And I assure you that our founding fathers never put an age limit on life, liberty, and equal protection under the law. Every child deserves to have a chance at life after born.
Congresswoman, how confident are you that you will have the support to bring this about? Do you think some Democrats will break with leadership?
They need to. I expect that we will have some Democrats that will sign the discharge petition. It depends on what kind of a stronghold that Nancy Pelosi, Speaker Pelosi, puts on her members. I hope that she allows all members to vote their conscience on this. If she were to allow them to vote their conscience, this would be the easiest vote that any legislator would ever choose. You either choose to give life-saving care to babies that are born, or you choose to let them die and discard them. It's a simple choice, and I think one that all Americans can be for. And if you look at some of the polling numbers out there, you would see that the vast majority of Americans, no matter where they may stand on the abortion issue, believe that a child that is born alive should always be given life-saving care.
Congresswoman Wagner, thank you again. Always good to see you.
It's my honor. Thank you so much.
Senator Bernie Sanders' 2020 presidential campaign has raised just over $18 million in the first few months of 2019. The campaign says the money comes from about 900,000 contributors, and the average donation, $20, a major grassroots campaign. $10 million came during the first week after Sanders announced he was getting into the race for the White House. Sanders is expected to be one of the biggest fundraisers among the pack of Democratic hopefuls.
A second sexual assault victim speaks out against Virginia's lieutenant governor. What she's saying in her first TV interview and reaction from lawmakers in the Commonwealth when we come back. Welcome back. A second sexual assault victim speaks out against Virginia's lieutenant governor. What she's saying in her first TV interview and reaction from lawmakers in the a second woman who has accused Virginia's lieutenant governor of sexual assault is speaking out with details of her story. Meredith Watson says while the two were students at Duke University back in 2000, Justin Fairfax raped her. Fairfax denies that claim, saying Watson has not filed criminal charges or a lawsuit, but instead is going to the media. Speaking today on CBS this morning, Watson said she had nothing to gain by coming forward.
The only thing coming forward has done is invited criticism and chaos and scrutiny of me and put me under a microscope. And it's been difficult enough what I've gone through the last 20 years. I didn't need this, but I had to tell the truth.
Both Watson and Fairfax's other accuser, Vanessa Tyson, have asked Virginia's lawmakers to hold a public hearing on their allegations. Fairfax says such a hearing would be a partisan media circus and is instead calling for a, quote, fair, full and impartial investigation.
Well, Eric Phillips is in Richmond, Virginia today following the story, and he joins us now with more. Eric, as accusers push for a public hearing.
Party lines where this hearing regarding the lieutenant governor is concerned. Republicans are saying that given the horrible nature of these sexual assault charges, they need to be vetted publicly. And they have made a proposal to do so. But so far, Democrats have said no, they will not have this public hearing move forward. Now, the victims, the alleged victims, both Meredith Watson and Vanessa Tyson have said they would like to testify publicly in front of the people of the Commonwealth. But, and this is just something we've learned in the last hour, they say they will only do so if there is bipartisan support for this hearing. They will not speak under any other circumstances. And that is why House Majority Leader Todd Gilbert says he's hoping Democrats will reconsider.
I think that anybody who takes off their partisan hat for even a moment and is able to look at that testimony, that interview, those interviews and how compelling they were, would agree that when those women say something terrible happened to us and we deserve a hearing in front of the legislature before all of Virginia so that all of Virginia can judge for themselves whether their lieutenant governor committed these horrible acts, I think everybody should agree that that is something that we should afford these women.
Now, it is important to note that the Republicans do hold a majority in Virginia. However, in that the victims, the alleged victims, have said they will not move forward without the consent of the Democrats, Republicans actually need the Democrats in this case. So unless something drastically changes very soon, it appears that this public hearing will be a no-go. What's interesting to note, though, is if it had in fact happened, this would have been the first time that the second-ranking Democrat in the state had such a hearing. John and Jenna.
All right. Eric Phillips reporting in Richmond. Thanks so much for that report, Eric.
Well, coming up, how an upcoming Supreme Court decision on embryos could have a ripple effect on abortion in America. The Supreme Court has a chance to decide a big question for the country. Are fertilized embryos people or property?
A decision could lead to a change in the state of legalized abortion in America. Paul Strand reports from the Supreme Court.
Recent cases involving the fight over the fate of frozen fertilized embryos show another example of our divided nation. For instance, an Arizona court ruled an ex-wife could give birth to her frozen embryos despite her ex's objections, while a Colorado court decided in favor of an ex-husband, stating embryos could be treated like property and thrown away. The U.S. Supreme Court has been asked to take the Colorado case and rule the frozen embryos are persons with a right to life.
You may not think it matters whether embryos are considered people, but if the law here in America decides that they are, or even if it decides they aren't, it has major implications.
Constitutional law attorney Jenna Ellis warns about a ruling that embryos are mere property.
So I think we're getting into very dangerous ethical and legal questions if the court decides to go that way.
We are commodifying human life. We are commodifying what it means to be human, and I think that has devastating consequences.
David Christensen of the Family Research Council points to the court's 1973 decision allowing abortion.
Roe v. Wade and Doe v. Bolton legalized abortion, and now we have 60 million unborn children that have been killed. There's no question about the impact on families and family dynamics and the way we view each other and the way we view unborn children.
Ellis says ruling embryos are property could potentially expand to other stages of life.
At what point does that arbitrary line go from fertilized embryos at merely the conception stage, then all the way to, say, someone who's in a coma at the end of their life? Are they then morphed into property because they don't have any decision-making autonomy?
Rather than looking at human embryos as property, we should look at them as they are, a member of the species Homo sapien, and they should be protected.
Pro-choice advocates worry declaring embryos persons with rights could end up stripping adults of their right not to be a parent. Ellis believes the issue is more fundamental. It's about life itself.
This is a really great opportunity for the Supreme Court to recognize that human life is human life, no matter how tiny and small.
Could that then shake the so-called right to abortion?
We're seeing with advanced technology that human beings are human beings, even in the womb, no matter how small. And I think that Roe's days are numbered, and we're going to see a pro-life win at the Supreme Court very, very soon.
Paul Strand, CBN News, the Supreme Court.
The debate rages on. Well, that's going to do it for tonight's Faith Nation.
Have a great night.